Sitting awkwardly in the college entrance ceremony, Kumasaka Takeru stood out from the crowd. He was tall, well-built, dark-skinned and had light hair. He wore a grumpy face while the others around him commented on his appearance, including the odd suit. Internally, the softie that was Kumasaka was almost crying with how angry and embarrassed he felt. He stood out in so many ways and he hated it, just wanting to be normal, or at least fit in. Though his soft inside was broken up over this, externally, he looked like he was about to end someone. He blames this whole disaster on the suit he wore because of his brother's recommendations. Unfortunately for the softie Kumasaka, his older brothers are delinquents and he isn't, and their fashion sense gave everyone the wrong impression about him. Devastated, Kumasaka believes that he'll never make any friends, falling into a state of despair. While he suffered, the girl next to him took notice of the giant sitting next to her. Looking at Kumasaka all enamored, Tozawa Kiyoka thought about how he was built different to normal delinquents and seemed to be probably a total playboy, which she liked, blushing to the thought of it. After a moment, she notices that Kumasaka was crying, shocking her to the core. She couldn't believe that she was seeing a delinquent cry. Feeling bad for him, she tells him that he can use her handkerchief, if he really needs it. Looking at it, he notices how cute it was, with a bunny motif on it. She tells him it's for him, apologizing that it's so cute while he has the appearance of a gruff man. Tozawa told Kumasaka that life might be scary sometimes, but they should do their best to make their new chapter in life the best it can be. Heart racing, he feels so thankful to her, and perhaps even more. Stumbling on his words, he manages to thank her and continue on with his college life. Fast forwarding 3 years, Kumasaka was looking at his bunny handkerchief and dreaming about meeting the nice girl with short hair that helped him that day. Little did he know, she had changed, but had not taken her eyes off of him, admiring his body from a distance. The towering and daunting figure of Kumasaka has always been more akin to that of a hamster, soft and gentle. Unfortunately, his body didn't get the memo. Meanwhile, Tozawa, with her delicate frame and inviting appearance, was closer to that of a panther, ready to strike her prey and devour them. In his search for a friend, Kumasaka approached Tozawa, not realizing who she is. He asks if the two could hang out, to get to know her since they are classmates. Internally, he comments that he's seen Tozawa often alone, just like him, and thinks that this might be a chance to solve the issues for both of them. 2 birds, 1 stone. Turning to face Kumasaka, she is taken aback since he's never approached her since their first meeting. She questions Kumasaka if it will be just the 2 of them, alone, seeming to look concerned. However, in her mind, she thought that Kumasaka was a playboy, and if the 2 of them are alone, it means that they are going to spend the night together, exciting her. While Tozawa thinks about spending the night together with Kumasaka, he explains to her that since he asked her to hang out, he will pay for all the costs. As Tozawa thanked him, Kumasaka took out his wallet and a small, square object fell out. Both of them looked at it before Kumasaka quickly picked it back up. Tozawa, only seeing the object for a moment, let her mind go wild. The shape, the size, it must be protection. Her imagination took her away, leaving her blushing from her daydreams. Kumasaka, clutching on the dropped object, warns himself about being so careless. He dropped his grandma's handmade Lucky Charm, which, if he lost, would be disastrous for him. After walking a while, Kumasaka asks Tozawa if she's tired and needs to rest. He barely gets the words out before she jumps up and down, saying yes please. He comments that she answered so quick, so she clearly must be hungry. As he spoke, Tozawa was doing quick maths on prices for a room in a love hotel. In all her excitement and jumping around, Tozawa slips on her heel and begins to fall over. Moving swiftly, Kumasaka manages to wrap his arms around her, saving her from injury. In the suddenness of the action, he hadn't realized that he had grabbed Tozawa's chest. Panicking, Kumasaka asked a flurry of questions. Are you okay? Are you hurt? The genuineness of his words was not in question, as his concern was written all over his face. Blushing from the intimate moment, Tozawa thanks Kumasaka for his efforts, before adding that his hand is squeezing her. Only now realizing Kumasaka was so shocked that he couldn't form words in that instant. Finally acting, Kumasaka retracts his arm and apologized, explaining that he hadn't noticed until he stopped. His right arm, it was stuck. The pair began to struggle, the giant softy attempting to free his hand, while the little minx attempted with all her might to keep his hand squeezing her. With his hand trembling in pain, Kumasaka thinks that he almost got his hand ripped off by the panther that is Tozawa. She spat in frustration as her pace slipped the trap. Meanwhile, Kumasaka thought that she did it out of anger since he grabbed her, and he couldn't blame her for that. Turning on the charm, Tozawa claims that she thinks she twisted her ankle in the fall, and would Kumasaka be a gentleman and give her a piggyback ride so they can continue on. Being a real sweetheart and falling for Tozawa's puppy eyes, Kumasaka instantly offered his back to her, saying that they should find somewhere to sit and ice it ASAP. Climbing on, she swung around and clung to his chest like a lover rather than a damsel in distress. Trying to laugh it off, Kumasaka says that he can't walk when she's in this position. Internally, his mind was a mess. What kind of piggyback was this? She smells good. No, focus. Worried about falling to the temptations of the flesh, he asked his granny what should he do. Deciding to just ask her to back off, he begins to say so, but Tozawa has other ideas. She gently blows on his ear in an attempt to entice him into doing something, her eyes darkened, hungry for touch. Kumasaka, blushing slightly but serious, warns Tozawa she should be careful teasing a guy like she is, or something bad might happen. He continues, saying that Tozawa is cute and if she did this to someone else, they might get the wrong idea and do something ungentlemanly. Tozawa has a puzzled look on her face, wondering if she was that hard to understand. She's been throwing out green lights, green flags. Does she need to throw out green undies at him to get him to understand? What she had imagined happening was Kumasaka understanding her wants, spoiling her rotten, and then going at it all night to her pleasure. After an adjustment to a bridal carry, Tozawa stared up at Kumasaka in admiration as he thinks about if he has to carry her the whole way there like this. Attempting to calm himself, he thinks over and over that he's just helping. His thoughts, though, are interrupted by Tozawa. Tozawa was squished against Kumasaka's pec, like a child to their teddy bear. She comments on how his chest is impressive, as she was blissfully pressed against them. Only realizing now, he released her and gently placed her down. Tozawa began to alter the conversation, saying that if he asked her to lick his pecs, she would, but not here, because it's in public. Kumasaka, slightly disappointed, asks Tozawa what even is he to her. Continuing to be the gentleman, Kumasaka goes to get medicine for Tozawa's ankle, telling her that he'll be back soon. Defeated, Tozawa can only thank him. Realizing she needs to improve her attempts, she begins searching for why he isn't noticing her cues. When it comes to nighttime aerobics, she's extremely diligent. Lost in her research, Tozawa didn't hear the stranger calling out to her. Sitting beside her and draping his arm over her shoulder, the real playboy asks if she's alone and would she like to play with him. With her face darkening, Tozawa threatens the scummy man, slapping away his hand and saying that if he touches her again, she'll call the cops. He says that she's quite harsh. Playfully confused, he asks Tozawa that she does want to fool around with guys, right? Tozawa, offended, questions what he means. Pointing to her phone, he says that her entire search history is filled with adult activities questions. Embarrassed about being caught, Tozawa attempts to shoo away the creep, telling him to mind his own business. Unfortunately, the man doesn't take no for an answer, and grabs her wrist tightly, telling her not to joke around. With a twisted, sick grin, the man remarks that Tozawa shouldn't be so picky if she just wants to hook up with someone. Dread began to fill Tozawa as she realized that she was now in way over her head, and she can't see a way out. A perverse look overtook the man's face as he gripped tighter on Tozawa's wrist, loudly and rapidly saying that they should just go now. He knows she's got to go. They should be going to a love hotel already. Tozawa cries out in pain as the man practically crushes her wrist, telling him to stop. she tells him that she's already made up her mind. She's decided who she will spend the night with, and it's not him. The stranger doesn't have a chance to reply, as the dread apparition of Kumasaka loomed behind Tozawa and reached out, starting to crush the stranger's face. Fury flowing through him, Kumasaka yells at the stranger, asking what the hell was he doing. He demanded an apology from him for Tozawa. The stranger's muffled apology squeaked out, saying that he didn't know Tozawa had a boyfriend. Kumasaka, still furious, yells that it doesn't matter if she was single or had a partner. What he did was wrong. Tozawa, in her favorite position, notices the passers-by muttering and calling the police, alarming her. Kumasaka asks her for her opinion on what to do with the stranger. Worried for Kumasaka, she tells him that she's fine, the stranger has been neutered, and they should leave. Kumasaka, still angry, begins to crack the stranger's skull, saying that he should just do a bit more. Tozawa yells at him, saying to stop, they should just go. Now. After bolting away from the scene of the incident, Kumasaka flopped down on a bench, panting heavily. Tozawa apologized for making him carry her while they were running at full speed. She looked at him with both worry and concern. Grounding himself, Kumasaka turned to Tozawa, asking about her hand. Tozawa, now noticing it, mentions that it's a bit red now, but it doesn't hurt anymore. Kumasaka, genuinely upset, says that even though he was right there, he let her get hurt. From the bottom of his heart, he apologizes. Tozawa, stunned, asks why is he the one apologizing. Tozawa admits that it's kinda her fault since she was being too careless. Kumasaka immediately says that what she's saying isn't true. What Tozawa couldn't admit was that she was too focused on finding ways to hook up with Kumasaka to notice the creep. Embracing Kumasaka, Tozawa buries her face in his chest. Kumasaka got flustered, blushing hard as Tozawa began to speak. She confesses that she was scared earlier, but is thankful that Kumasaka saved her. Kumasaka, standing there feeling awkward, begins to speak, saying to Tozawa that they should probably go. But his comment goes unanswered, as Tozawa wasn't paying attention to him and was locked in to her embrace. Calling out worried, Kumasaka says Tozawa's name, mentioning that it's getting hard to breathe with her locking into him so hard. As she begins to crush him, she blushed hard and formed hard eyes. She promised herself internally that she would absolutely get Kumasaka to spend the night with her. Following days, Tozawa seeked out Kumasaka and would sit with them and spend time with them, first asking if she can join him for a lecture, bubbling with happiness. Later, she joined him in the cafeteria, having saved seats for the pair so they could eat together. She approached him at the end of the day, asking if they could walk home together and stop by a cafe. But she stopped when she saw Kumasaka crying, questioning why. Internally, Kumasaka was just so happy that he finally had a university friend. On the bus to uni, Kumasaka asked Tozawa if she's free after 5th period. Tozawa, at light speed, answers that she was. Kumasaka notes that she replies very quickly. Leaning into her, Kumasaka whispers that he wants Tozawa to stop by his place for a while, and it won't take long. Tozawa goes flush red as she thinks that her dream has come true, and they'll finally have their intimate night together. Standing in Kumasaka's apartment, Tozawa was completely baffled as to why she was holding veggies and not Kumasaka. He thanks her for taking some of the harvest off his hand, as his granny had sent him too much, like she does every year. With a disappointed pout, Tozawa says that she'll enjoy these and thanks him for it. The next day, Tozawa approached Kumasaka with a bento box, made with the veggies that he had gifted her. He tells her that that's not why he gave them to her, but she counters saying that she made it for him because she wanted to. She comments on the ingredients, mentioning a variety of foods, most of which are fancy. As she rattled off the names, she had a slight blush and darkened eyes, hinting to the scheme that she had brewing. Kumasaka notes that the components of the bento sound so luxurious. Digging in, Kumasaka finds the bento scrumptious, saying that Tozawa is awesome for making something so delicious. Still mischievous, with her blush and darkened eyes, she softly adds that there's also some blood from a soft-shell turtle, which is believed to be an aphrodisiac. Power erupting from him, Kumasaka's veins pop up while his shirt shreds from his body. Looking like a feral ogre, Kumasaka huffs and puffs in a fervor of lust. Tozawa mentally comments that the bento box was effective, maybe too effective. Seeing her chance, she clings to Kumasaka's bulging arm, seductively calling his name as she rubs against it, her dark, temptress eyes in full bloom. To her surprise, Kumasaka holds onto her, saying her name. He leans in close, telling her that he can't hold on any longer, breathing into her ear. Tozawa, blushing, now acts more like a maiden rather than a panther. Racing for a kiss, she was still acting like a maiden with her blush and shut eyes. She thinks that it's finally gonna happen, but is stunned when she hears a thump. Opening her eyes, she manages to see Kumasaka as he drops to the floor. Looking down, Tozawa sees Kumasaka passed out on the floor. She begins to call his name, worried. Seeing him still unresponsive, she then screams his name, but he's still out cold. What she didn't know was that eating all those stamina-enhancing substances while his blood flowed to one part of the body, it can cause a loss of consciousness. Tozawa approached Kumasaka, telling him that when she's having a good time, she likes to take pictures and post them online. Kumasaka asks if she wants to do it with him, which she tells him she does. Tozawa tells him how to pose as they get ready for the picture, moving and positioning him like a doll. Once in position, she takes the picture. Looking at the photo, Tozawa comments on how great it came out. So good, in fact, that she posts it right away. Kumasaka tries to stop her, seeing how NTR the picture looks, but he's unable to do it on time. Another day, Kumasaka stops Tozawa, telling her not to move. He leaned in, hands outstretched. Looking at Kumasaka with hard eyes, she thinks that now they are finally going to do it. Until Kumasaka tells her that she has a bug in her hair, terrifying her. Tozawa then begins to flail and cry like a child, trying to flee from the fly on her head, as Kumasaka tells her not to move anymore. He'll get rid of it for her. Kumasaka apologizes as he grabs Tozawa's face before plucking off the fly and flicking it away. While still squeezed in Kumasaka's hand, Tozawa, red from crying and looking as innocent as could be, asks if it's gone, if it's all okay now. Seeing her in this position, little Kumasaka rises to the occasion, to Kumasaka's horror. Not wanting her to see, Kumasaka tells her that there's another bug, but he'll get it, she just needs to close her eyes. Starting to cry again, Tozawa begs him to get rid of this bug too. Turning in surprise, Kumasaka asks Tozawa if she really asked him to get drinks. She happily tells him that yep, she did. She continues, saying that it would be nice to bond over drinks. Her temptress inner monologue, however, was saying that she hoped that he'd become a beast when he drank and would ravage her. The pair drank pints, celebrating their friendship. After many pints and 3 hours, Kumasaka was dragging Tozawa home. Tozawa drunkenly spilled her thoughts, saying how tasty his body looked. Kumasaka, flustered and frustrated, tells her that she's too drunk. Tozawa says that they should go party at a hotel now, but Kumasaka shot down the idea immediately. Waking up with bunnies in her heart, Tozawa questioned if she and Kumasaka had done the deed. She was surprised to see that she was still dressed and she wasn't at home or at a hotel. Head pounding, Tozawa realized that she was very hungover. She went to look for the bathroom and, upon opening the bathroom door, she found Kumasaka asleep with a blanket wrapped around him on the floor. Freaking out, Tozawa apologized for hugging the bed, but said he should have at least slept in the room with her. Kumasaka stretched, popping and cracking with each movement as he groaned. Tozawa commented that it was all so very loud. Sleepy-eyed, Kumasaka asks Tozawa how could she sleep peacefully with a guy in the same room as her. Taken aback, Tozawa yells that she kinda wished that she would be kept up all night long instead of sleeping well. Kumasaka was completely confused as the true meaning of Tozawa's comment flew right over his head. Kumasaka laughed as he commented that when he checked up on her after having a shower, He noticed that Tozawa was able to sleep so peacefully and he was glad for it. With terrifying eyes, Tozawa glared at him, menacingly saying that her moment to peep on Kumasaka bathing was gone. Kumasaka, seeing this terrifying sight, shrieked at the intimidating aura. It was 2 a.m. when he took the steamy shower, and he saw how Tozawa was sleeping soundly. He smiled at the adorable sight before going to sleep himself in the other room. Tozawa thanked Kumasaka for letting her stay at his place. He told her that it was no problem since he was not going to let her go home that drunk. It would have been dangerous. Awkwardly blushing, Tozawa asks if she can use his shower to freshen up before leaving his place. Flustered, Kumasaka tells her that of course she can use his shower. Tozawa both apologized and thanked him, while Kumasaka tries his best not to think of naked Tozawa. Sitting on the bed, he repeats to himself over and over, "Don't imagine it, don't imagine it, don't imagine it." While showering, Tozawa notices that Kumasaka actually uses some really good shampoo, which surprises her. Beginning to scheme in her temptress mode, her eyes darken to the thought of Kumasaka's reaction if she left the bathroom in only a towel. Her thoughts are interrupted by a sudden noise, however. Turning around, Tozawa spots her worst enemy, a cockroach, sitting right there on the wall. Grumbling to himself, Kumasaka gives up as he now is more aware of the curves of Tozawa than ever before. Thinking quick, he decides to go on the internet to distract from his own thoughts. As he goes to take his phone out, a scream from the bathroom catches his attention. Rushing to the bathroom and knocking on the door, Kumasaka calls out to Tozawa, asking what's wrong. But he was tackled by a new Tozawa fleeing in panic from the cockroach, receiving a pair of missiles to the face. Clinging to Kumasaka's face, Tozawa stuttered in fear that there was a cockroach, terrifying her. Kumasaka was being smothered by Tozawa's pillows, attempting to call her name since he couldn't breathe. Eventually managing to pull Tozawa the facehugger off him, Kumasaka takes a big gulp of air before yelling at her to calm down while his nose bled and his face was vibrant red. Putting his jumper on her, Kumasaka took a guard stance and told Tozawa to stay back. He'll deal with this. Tozawa, crying and sniffling, defeatedly said okay as Kumasaka looked for the cockroach. Moving into the bathroom, he finds the cockroach scurrying away and calls out that he found it. Unfortunately, that brings terror back to Tozawa. Gripping a newspaper tightly, he takes an ogre club swing at the cockroach, eviscerating it. Tozawa timidly thanked Kumasaka for his effort while he bagged up what remained of the cockroach. He apologizes for not realizing he had a bug and for scaring her like that. Noticing that she's drenched, Kumasaka tells Tozawa to shower again since she must be freezing. Tozawa says nothing, fidgeting awkwardly and looking down submissively. Kumasaka questions the look, with Tozawa saying that she's scared to shower now and needs him nearby. Sitting outside the shower, Tozawa calls out asking if Kumasaka is still near. Blushing and feeling awkward, he loudly replies that he is. Heading home, Tozawa thanks Kumasaka for everything he did, which he brushes off saying it was no problem, he'll see her at uni. Once the door closed, Kumasaka could finally drop the calm facade. Remembering Tozawa launching herself at him, he goes bright red as the memory is vivid and will not leave his mind. Throwing himself onto the bed, embarrassment filled the innocent grandma's boy that is Kumasaka, as he howled with a mix of emotions. The next day at uni, gossip was brewing. Two students whispered to each other about Kumasaka and Tozawa. They mentioned that apparently Kumasaka has made moves on Tozawa, who is the college's cool beauty that is supposedly unattainable. The first boy continues, saying that someone witnessed Tozawa leaving Kumasaka's place after the last day off, at dawn. Images of Kumasaka ravishing Tozawa filled both of their minds, as the second boy questioned if it was even real. Commenting on how close they are, the pair of students say something must be up. Meanwhile, Tozawa was questioning Kumasaka as he seemed distant after the cockroach incident. Stunned and flushed red, Kumasaka apologized, adding that he didn't notice, as his heart raced from the memories of that night. Walking off their campus, Kumasaka asks Tozawa if she wants to take a break with him since the next period is free, with Tozawa quickly yelling that she wants a break. But their conversation is interrupted with a kid's cry, alerting both of them to trouble. Tozawa says it might be cliche, but the two of them should go help this random child and their balloon. Getting closer, Kumasaka mentions that despite his height, he can't reach it. However, Tozawa has an idea. Combining their strength and making a reference I don't understand, Tozawa says that she'll give 100% and get the balloon with all her might. Managing to reach the balloon, Tozawa discovers that the string is tangled on the tree limb and begins to undo it. While Tozawa struggled with the balloon, Kumasaka was losing a fight against Tozawa that she didn't even know she was fighting. Tozawa tells Kumasaka that she only needs a little bit more to free the balloon, but Kumasaka begins to lower her. Tozawa was confused by why he started bringing her down. Tozawa, not looking down, asked Kumasaka what's wrong with them. Kumasaka, battling his body and Kumasaka Jr., lies to Tozawa saying that his back is a bit sore. Bonus chapters. Standing behind Kumasaka, Tozawa copped the feel on his chest, commenting on how it's impressive. Truly impressive. Kumasaka didn't resist, just blushed and thought about how weird it was. Tozawa asked Kumasaka to allow her to touch his leg. Blushing, he allowed her, thinking that it'd be no issue and it's not weird. Until Tozawa crouched down, pressing her chest against his leg and commenting on how it's as thick as her waist in a sensual tone. Believing her plan to tempt Kumasaka into pouncing on her is working, Tozawa lets out a smug smile and laugh, before seeing Kumasaka punch himself in the face to keep control of himself, foiling Tozawa's temptress plans. Students saw Kumasaka showing Tozawa something on his phone, stunning her. They believed that it was a threat or blackmail against Tozawa and worried for her safety. But it was not as they thought, as Kumasaka was sent a baby picture of himself from his grandma and he showed it to Tozawa. Tozawa was trying to contain herself, but at the end, she couldn't help it and let out a "so cute." Tozawa prepared herself to go to Kumasaka's place since he had invited her. She cleaned and freshened herself up while thinking all day that her and Kumasaka were gonna get it on. To her heart-wrenching disappointment, it was just veggies. After the stimulant overload bento Tozawa had made, she gave Kumasaka a lap pillow along with an overhead pillow. She had draped her jacket over him as he slept peacefully, dreaming of being in Pillow World. On another day, Tozawa mentioned to Kumasaka that she just learnt about X-vids. Kumasaka was surprised that girls watch videos like that. Deciding to add his input, he explained that it's called crossvids, not X. He was under the impression that he knew the correct name. Deciding to tease him, Tozawa smirks and reveals her temptress eyes, saying that Kumasaka knows a lot about X-vids. Covering his face, Kumasaka was incredibly embarrassed, as Tozawa apologized, saying that she was only teasing and she wanted to see his face. But of course, we all know that Kumasaka was wrong about it being called cross-vids. Doing a Halloween photo shoot, Kumasaka was dressed as a cop while Tozawa was a horny jail prisoner. When it was finished, Kumasaka commented that he was a little embarrassed being so close to her, saying that he could scoot away just a little bit. Using her incredible horny strength, Tozawa pulled Kumasaka towards her for a kiss, while he resisted with all his might. Walking to college with a coffee, Tozawa was thinking about how she wanted to touch and feel Kumasaka. Tozawa thought about how it just felt natural to want to touch Kumasaka all over. In her fantasy world, Tozawa didn't see Kumasaka and crashed into him, accidentally throwing her coffee on him. Tozawa immediately apologized, saying that she was daydreaming and didn't notice him, but Kumasaka returned the sentiments, as he also wasn't looking where he was going. Noticing his stained clothes, Tozawa asks about them, but Kumasaka tells her not to worry as they were cheap. Feeling really bad, she comments on how she made his shirt dirty. So dirty. Until the dirt of Kumasaka's shirt entered her mind and Tozawa went feral. She tells Kumasaka that she needs to take off his shirt right now, before the stain becomes too tough to remove. She also needs to help to remove the coffee from his skin as well.